Speaking of underwear, we do have a note that there was the bra situation where you stole a bra.
I did.
All right. So to me, unfortunately, the pattern of, taking what you need kind of stood out. Can you explain what that was about in October of 24?
I took a bra.
Now, having a write-up for stealing a bra might not seem like the harshest write-up to have when you're up for parole, except if you're locked up for doing just that, for stealing. You see, she was slapped with a 10-year sentence, all suspended but for 45 months, for stealing over $300,000 from an 88-year-old woman with whom she was placed in charge of. She was her trusted caretaker. Now, after stealing that $300,000, she, as I said, took that plea deal of 45 months in prison and now already up for parole. How will the parole board handle this case? Someone who can't help themselves but to steal while in prison. Someone who would know that they're having their parole hearing up sometime soon. Not only that, but this woman, she tells the parole board that she wants to get into nursing when she gets out. You just can't make it up. Anyways, I'll unpack it with more details at the end.
My name is Abigail Wood, inmate number 444082.
Thank you. This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Abigail Wood, inmate number 444082. She is serving a sentence of 10 years, suspended after 45 months with 3 years probation for larceny first. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of January 17, 2025. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan that has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed anger management and is currently in tier 2. Utilizing the women's risk assessment, the offender's overall score for recidivating falls in the low range. Ms. Wood, this is your opportunity to tell the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Thank you. Honorable sirs and madam of the parole board, thank you for this opportunity to stand in front of you today. My name is Abigail Wood and I have served nearly 2 years of a 45-month sentence. While prison is not somewhere I ever expected to be, I am incredibly grateful for this life-changing and life-saving experience, for the time to heal and enter into recovery, and for all the opportunities for growth I've experienced here. I'd like to tell you a bit about my background as an attempt towards understanding how I came to be at York Correctional. I was injured in a 5-story fall while studying abroad in France at age 20. I was prescribed opiates, specifically Oxycontin, to treat my pain. At the time, I was not aware of the strong potential for addiction. I became dependent on opiates and relied on legally acquired prescription medicine. Once I was no longer able to access these, I switched to heroin, which later became fentanyl. Despite being capable of great things and giving amazing opportunities, my addiction led me to make poor choices and resulted in my arrest and eventual incarceration. I recognize that I have made many mistakes that I deeply regret and take full responsibility for. Because my past as an addict was riddled with abuse and the emotional and physical trauma that comes with it, I lived most of my life in fear. Strange as it may seem, I was not even aware of it on a conscious level much of the time. I now understand that was because I covered it up with drugs. I did not value myself. I pretended I was okay with such conviction I actually believed my own lie. I just kept moving. I never wanted to think about what had been done to me, what I had done, or what I was doing. In truth, I never actually made choices. I was on autopilot, never stopping for introspection. If I had, I'm afraid my answer would have been an unworthy, unlovable junkie. For most of my life, I had no self-worth. During that time, my brief periods of sobriety were sporadic, short-lived, and usually brought about to appease others. I would tell people I had an opiate addiction, but not because I truly acknowledged it, but rather to take away the sting of their accusations. Change was not something I believed was a real possibility for me. Having found acceptance inside the spiritual communities, educational classrooms, recovery groups, and creative arts programs here at YCI has enabled me to transform into the woman I have always aspired to be, one of integrity. The healthier I have become, the more opportunities I was given and the more I achieved. I have found purpose and self-respect from my work at the facility, from the food prep warehouse to the worker in the mental health unit, to the library, and to the tier worker on the geriatric tier. In helping to support other women as they embark on their own journeys of healing and rehabilitation has helped me to discover a purpose and a future. This is the kind of work I'd like to continue to do in the community. My own healing is a direct result of so many others here, women who have showed me kindness, respect, compassion, and support. And it has never been one-sided. It has always been reciprocal rehabilitation. I look forward to walking out of these doors as a changed woman and enrolling in school for a nursing degree to work in addiction medicine. As I've said before, in the past, I was aimless, without plans or goals. Not today. Today, I think about everything I do, everything I have done, and the impact of my choices, words, and actions on others. I think about how I can positively contribute to my community. I do not just think about these things, I am these things. Today I am living, and today I can feel. After having spent far too long known by opiates, I feel for myself and I feel for others. As a result, I can use my own experiences to mentor and teach by example. Unlike my early attempts at sobriety, I now embody and live by the principles I promote. I am incredibly grateful to each of you for taking the time to speak with me today, allowing me to express my remorse and for giving me this opportunity to apologize. I will always regret not having the ability to personally apologize to Florence and Earl Barnes. I recognize how I hurt and took advantage of Florence's trust in me, and that is something I sincerely regret. I'd like to apologize to my own family who has also suffered, to my community, and to each of you. Though for me, an apology is not enough on its own. Saying I'm sorry should be a commitment to change. Today, I can say I have done that. The woman sitting in front of you is not the same one that came to YCI almost 2 years ago. Today, I am accountable, remorseful, and have worked hard to rehabilitate. During my incarceration, I have gotten to know and love myself. Today, I am completely free of opiates, including methadone. I spent 11 months successfully tapering off methadone and can honestly say I am a completely changed person as a result. I have taken advantage of every opportunity available to me to grow, learn, and especially heal. I completed the Defy Ventures program and won first place in their business pitch competition. I participated in Judy Dorwin's Justice Dance Performance Project. I am currently participating in an intensive outpatient educational program that is Tier 2. Despite it being part of my OAP, I chose to take this program as a continued care plan to better myself. I attend school and have been consistently employed. I faithfully attend Native American Services and their Wellbriety Recovery Group. I understand parole is not a guarantee, but rather a privilege, one that I hope to be granted. I will not allow where I am and where I've been to continue to define me as a woman. I remain steadfast in my recovery and spirituality and support the recovery of those who seek it. I am committed to living a life of service, thus making my life a reflection of second chances. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Wood, for that statement. It was very thoughtful and covered a lot. What happens here is we've read about the offense, and we've read what's happened since your incarceration. And what we do is we take a look to see what we want to clarify. And you've done a lot of that for me through your opening remarks. We ask questions and then we talk about your case and give you a decision, okay?
Okay.
So
Just so you know, the video is blinking in and out. So if I'm not making eye contact, it's because I can't see you.
it's blinking in and out. So Kristen have probably heard that.
Yeah, the other way she said we could fix this, we would have to disconnect and reconnect. So to do that, we'd have to call the officer. So
Can you hear us okay when that's happening?
Oh, I can hear you just fine. I just didn't want you to think I was looking elsewhere. But I am looking at the camera, so.
Okay.
It doesn't cut in and out.
Yeah, well, when, at the end of your hearing, we'll have the officer do that. We can see you perfectly.
Okay, thank you.
So, this offense was horrible.
Right.
And, you know, you expressed that you understand that.
Mhm.
And I appreciate your apology. I really think that there was sincerity behind it. And that spiral, I know too many people that are close to me that went in that spiral and with Oxy, who are just really incredible people that went down a hole with that and wound up doing things that they normally wouldn't do. You know, so I can appreciate what you said, but as you said, you know, just being sorry isn't enough, right?
Right.
So what I see is that what you have to do is figure out how you bring about change in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that this doesn't happen again, and you start becoming a contributor rather than somebody who takes.
Right.
Right. You know, I heard a lot, and I know the programs there at York.
Mm-hmm.
And your engagement in them and the way you talked about them makes me understand that you've really accessed the solution here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that that's what I was going to walk into. Because face value, this offense, you know, it's taken somebody's really their whole financial security, you know?
Right.
So let's just go through a little bit. Tier 2 is in process. When does it finish up?
I believe the ending date is projected at June 2nd.
June 2nd. Okay. And so with that, you still have a couple of months of work to do there. However, there's these other programs that you've been engaged in while you've been there, right?
Right.
So talk to me, what is Wellbriety?
Well, Variety is a recovery group similar to AA or NA, but done through the lens of Native American beliefs or spirituality.
And what did you learn through Wellbriety?
I learned to tell myself the truth, which was a hard thing. And, you know, it's a work in progress, and it's something that I didn't necessarily do all the time. And I never had a sense of spirituality. I went to church, but it was more rote prayer, not really any thinking behind it. And, you know, it was more like making wishes, honestly. And through Terry and the Native American services, I've really become in touch with my spirituality and believe that there is a bigger purpose for all of this suffering. And I know I am. It's hard to even remember the woman that I was when I came in here, honestly. I know that I have spent 20 years under the fog of opiates, and for the first time, it makes 4 months today that I'm off methadone. And things are just so much different. much different and much better in my life because of that.
That's a really good thing.
Mhm.
You engaged in smart recovery as well.
Yes, I was only able to attend one of those meetings, but I do have a pass for the group. Judy Dorwin meets around the same time, her Justice Dance Performance Project. So that conflicted.
What did you think with your little exposure to that?
It's something that I plan on continuing in the community. I'd really like to engage in IOP and continue to do what.
What do
I'm
you
sorry.
like about smart recovery?
I liked that it was rational. You know, I wasn't able to glean much from the limited exposure I had to it, to be honest. So I can't really speak on that.
Okay, I appreciate your honesty with that. Smart recovery takes like real life situations and they talk about, actual solutions
Mhm.
that don't involve substances. So it's a good, it's a good program, but thank you for doing that. And you said, have you been to AA and NA meetings in the facility?
I have. When I was in tier 4, I did. I choose to go to Well Variety as opposed to NA or AA, just it's a small group, and I've been going there for 2 years, and there's really trust and support among the women there, and I feel heard and seen, and we do help each other. I've had 4 women come to me and tell me they've gotten off methadone as a result of hearing me talk about it and my experiences getting off. So that's felt really amazing to be able to help people like that.
Good. So there were a couple other programs that you'd taken that aren't necessarily addiction related, but Voices. Where did you go with Voices?
Voices is on my OAP, and I have written for 2 years to go into the group, but I am on the waiting list currently.
I'm sorry, I misread my own notes. You're on the wait list for that.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I did complete Defy, and I currently I still participate in Judy Dorwin's Justice Dance Performance Project, which really has given me a voice and helped me learn to speak up for myself. I was shocked that I won the Defy contest. It was really something I put a lot of work into. And if you would have told me a year ago that I would have stood in front of, almost 100 people and been able to engage with the crowd and pitch them my idea, I would have thought you were crazy, but I was able to conquer that fear. And it was a wonderful program to be a part of.
Awesome. That's great. So you have a history or work history as home health aide, and that's where you ran into some trouble here, right?
Correct. And I know in my exit plan with Officer Boisvert, I did say that I would have a potential job to go back to, but that isn't something that I would want to do. I think that I need a fresh start elsewhere.
Okay. But you also want to head into a nursing degree.
Yes.
And you want to work in the recovery related field.
Absolutely.
So how do you think you would handle being around the meds that are related to nursing in the substance use related field?
I can tell you, I am around them in here. You know, diverting meds is something I'm sure you know about that happens regularly in the correctional community. And I see people nodding out and sniffing psych meds and different things. And honestly, it's a reminder for me, of what I don't want to be. And it makes me so sad that I was like that for so long. So while I recognize that, yes, it seems as though it would be a challenging thing, I am so committed to myself and to how I feel off of opiates that it's really there. I can't say there is no temptation, but I am just in such a better place, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, that I don't foresee it being something that would tempt me. And perhaps I might be more towards the counseling end of addiction medicine and maybe not the nursing. I don't know. I just yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, that's, I wanted to make sure that you thought about, you know,
Mhm.
because detox is a big thing, right?
Right.
And, you know, some meds that you take, some parts of detox deal with meds that people need to be weaned from.
Right.
So it's like, that's, you know, I wanted to make sure that you've thought about where you're going here.
Thank you.
Have you ever, you want to go to your mom out in the woods?
Yeah.
Have you ever been out in recovery in that area of the state?
Yes, I have. I went to 2 programs there, rehabilitation centers, and I'm very familiar with the recovery groups, Mountainside, High Watch. You know, I have many family members, 2 aunts and an uncle, some cousins, who all have significant periods of sobriety, who are active in the community, sponsoring. So I do have a great support network. Although I'm an only child, my mother is one of 10, so I have a lot of that are all in my area. I have a lot of first cousins and aunts and uncles, and you know, people who are cheering me on and hoping I do well, who believe in me. So that's very bolstering.
But I mean, that's how you do it,
Right.
right? That's how you do it. And those two places are really good,
Mm-hmm.
especially the prime rib on Saturday night.
At High Watch, yes.
So yeah, so that's good. I'm glad that you're connected like that. It's really important to the transition back into the community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pass it on and see what other board members have questions. Okay,
Okay.
board members office has questions.
Thank you. Good morning. So I'd like to start by congratulating you on no longer being opioid dependent, because that is a very big accomplishment.
Thank you.
In reviewing some of the reports that we read, I did see that you had a series of opportunities for treatment at various locations, you know, Charlotte, Hungerford, Mountainside, Silver Hills, McCall. Why do you think it clicked for you here as opposed to all of those other high-end programs?
You know, I'd never come to jail before, and I never really met my rock bottom. And I certainly did, committing the crime I did and having to come here. And there were no other options for me at that point. So sobriety was my only way of surviving this experience, and I knew that it would better me, that I kind of had to get myself excited to come to prison, if that makes sense. It was something that I was very scared of, that I tried to avoid for a long time and not think about, not really think of the gravity of it. But once I changed my thinking and realized, wow, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to be sober, because, you know, although I know that there are people in here who use, for me, that was never an option. And I am so proud of myself to be off of methadone. It was a long 11 months of tapering, and I certainly was uncomfortable, but the reward is so great. Is just, you know, to wake up every day and to not need anything is amazing, and to wake up happy is even better yet.
So in terms of the injury that you suffered, and the pain that followed that,
Mm-hmm.
is it fair to say that your addiction overcame the necessity of pain management? So you don't have any pain left from those injuries, but the addiction remains.
Correct.
Okay. One of the risks that you identified was Waterbury and people and places. Is that where you were going to get your drugs?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess my other question, just to stay in the treatment arena for a minute, is there's a note in your report that the Tier 4 program was declined, but yet you mentioned that you had been in it. What happened with Tier 4?
So I was in Tier 4 for 3 weeks in September of 2024. At the time, I had been tapering off of methadone, and it was getting to be the last 20 milligrams, which are generally the hardest. So being put in that program, for me, it was far too much stimuli, the lights, the noise, the people. I didn't feel safe, or I didn't feel as though I could safely or sanely come off of methadone in that environment, and coming off of methadone really was my priority. So I chose to decline that programming.
Okay, nope, thank you for the explanation. And the other question I have in terms of everything that transpired in regard to the instant offense was the role of your mother. Was she aware of what you were doing?
No.
At the time?
No.
Okay, because she was quasi working there and taking some of the hours at certain points?
At certain points, if I was going to the market or had a doctor's appointment, something like that, she would help me. And she and Florence were very friendly. They got along. Florence loved her company, so she would stop over in a non-official capacity, I guess, as well. But,
Okay, but
no,
she
was
didn't
not.
know.
No.
So how did that conversation go when it came to light of people finding out what you were doing?
It was a very upsetting conversation. She didn't really understand the severity or the gravity of it. She it was oblivious to that. Although she was aware I had addiction issues, she did not know how far it had gone.
So she didn't check in with you and ask, knowing you had access to money and credit cards?
No, she didn't.
And is your mother part of the sober community, or has she never had issues?
She is. She has not had a drink in some 10 years and attends meetings. I won't say as much as my aunts are part of the community. She is a part of the community, but on a lesser scale, I would say.
You had referenced the large family that you can rely upon in terms of community support for your own sobriety. But
Right.
what's the other half of the family like? Are there people who are actively using, or are they just going about their lives without any type of substance issues?
So my father's side of the family, I just have my father. His brothers are in Maine and Florida, and I don't really have a connection with them. His own mother is deceased. Today's her birthday, 104 she would be. But my father, has been a drinker most of his life. When he found out that I got off methadone, he actually stopped drinking. So he has some 120 days sober, I guess, which I'm very proud of him for. So I do have support from him as well, and his wife.
There is also another note about a janitor job that you held where it said that you were released without prejudice and that they noted that it wasn't a good fit due to the high demands and expectations of the unit. What was happening for you at that point?
I was the common area worker in 4 North in the mental health unit, which I loved. I have been in 4 North myself. I've been in the Ferguson gown, and I know how that feels. And I had a lot of empathy for the women who went through there. So honestly, it was sometimes boundaries were hard for me. It was hard for me to say no to certain things. Being asked for an extra pair of underwear, that sort of thing. I struggled with that. Because I felt so much for them, and I had wished someone had been a bit kinder to me, maybe. So that was why I was let go without prejudice.
Okay. And then speaking of underwear, we do have a note that there was the bra situation where you stole a bra.
I did.
All right. So to me, unfortunately, the pattern of, taking what you need kind of stood out. Can you explain what that was about in October of 24?
I took a bra, and although this is not an excuse, at the time commissary had not been selling them for about 6 or 7 months. And it was a serious lack of judgment. I had been so proud to be thought of as a good worker here, and to have the good jobs that I had in Fort North and in food prep and A&D, and I really had never had that perception of being a responsible person. So I was so proud of that. And when I very stupidly took something that didn't belong to me, and I lost that respect, and I saw the way that COs looked at me, it was very sobering. And I realized if I needed another reminder of who I didn't want to be, that was it.
You are trash, Lindsay. You are trash.
So in terms of that, I mean, are you allowed to have your mother send you things? I mean, were there other options at that point instead of taking something that didn't belong to you? I mean, going
No.
6 or 7 months without having an undergarment, I get it, but what were your options?
No, but outside family cannot send things in. I guess I could have traded some commissary, done something like that, asked someone for help. So I guess those would have been my other options.
Is restitution part of anything that you have to do?
No, there is not.
Thank you. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Board Member Sezeskis.
Thank you. My colleagues have covered most of it. I just had a question about this disciplinary approach to theft of the clothing. Were you working when that took place? Were you working in the facility? Is that how you had access to this?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's concerning for me because of the nature of your, your initial crime. And that this was later into your incarceration. You've already been, you have already been off of methadone probably at that point. This was
So that was my last, that when that happened, I was, I was, detoxing from 10 milligrams down. And usually that's the most difficult part. In the past, when I detoxed, I kind of, I have had a break with reality, psychosis, and done things that I don't remember. So I can't say that this is what happened there, but I certainly, my thinking was not as it is now. I was not as clear-minded as I am. I was still.
people are gonna, you've had the criminal arrest, very serious nature and circumstances of this, right? And then, this other incident, not as serious, clearly, right? But it's just a continuation of the same type of behavior, stealing things while you're at work that don't belong to you, So I understand your reasons for it, and you explain that, and I definitely take that into consideration, but it definitely is a little bit of a concern after all of this time. And that was right around the same time that you left here for. It's just a couple things happened right at that same point while you were ending the methadone.
Mhm.
So, okay, that's all I really have. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sezeskis. So,
May I say, I don't
Sure.
know if, I have a letter here from Elder Delahanty. I did send it to Officer Boisvert. I don't know if it's something that I read or that you have a copy of.
we have it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk about your case now and give you a decision. Okay.
Okay.
So, Ms. Wood is in for larceny first. That was the theft of a great deal of money. In conjunction with work as home health aide type position. It's very concerning. The place where she was when this was happening, I think we know all too well. Middle of an oxy addiction, has progressed to street drugs to that extent. Decisions are made that normally wouldn't be made if somebody were clean and sober. And I hear and I understand the one ticket that's here. The fact that it's a theft and a theft is, I understand that, but taking an undergarment when families can't send them in, and it's a great deal of time between the opportunity to get one through normal channels. I'm not providing an excuse, but I just don't see $250,000 and a bra being the same thing. My concern here is the recovery journey, because making a recovery journey from here is really what's going to be the thing that stops recidivism in this case. Ms. Wood has done a great deal when it comes to that. I like very much the spiritual community she's found in Wellbriety. Her openness to doing things, you know, that deal with self-worth, which is something that's a big part of the center core of addiction. You know, she put herself in places that, in terms of employment, that she struggled with. So she removed herself. You know, that's something that's important there. And the reason why I bring that up at this point is, you know, being in a situation and being able to remove yourself because things are something that we can't handle right now. You know, not saying we can't handle them ever, but we can't handle them right now, you know? So I get taking herself out of the tier worker position. You know, she seeks a degree in nursing, and whether she's going to use that, as she just talked about, with counseling or whatever whatever area it is in the area of addiction and recovery. I think that Ms. Wood would do well to stay with that. I think the way people responded to her in the group, you know, I'm not making any kind of medical judgment here, but the way she's tapered herself, rather than leaning in, she's, you know, she wants to be totally substance free. You know, you know, that's a really important thing. And it's, you know, the way people followed her in that group as she was being honest and about what was going on is important. What she did in Defy and Judy Doran, the two programs down there are really important. You know, she wants to go to an area of the state with her mom where there are two very good programs that have a lot of meetings in and around that area. It's again an important thing. Having family that's involved in recovery is another very important thing. She rates out low, and she has no criminal history. You know, for me, where I am in this case is that I would support discretionary parole so that she'd have some time on parole in between her release and her ultimate release on probation. Board members, I perception.
I'm not there yet, although I do believe that Ms. Wood presented much better than I anticipated after reading the files, but the nature and circumstances for me in the $380,000 is significant. And the fact that she hasn't taken voices is a concern for me, because even though the victim at stake here is now deceased, I think any type of violation of vulnerable communities who rely upon caretakers and people to come into their homes in order to maintain their quality of life at their end of life is very serious. I also believe that when we have an intersection of mental health and addiction recovery, that journey that you spoke of can be very fragile. And I would like to see her finish her programs and take voices. And I know that we're looking at June 2nd. I could be convinced to go out that long or do a potential rehear after that point. But I'd like to discuss, you know, the intersection of that June 2nd date and what else could possibly be done with my colleagues.
And my intention as well, I didn't say it, but my intention as well would be to a contingency on the tier 2 program. But
Thank you.
board member Suzaskas.
Yeah, so I do see some value in completing voices, although, you know, she presents much better today than I read about. And I was concerned about a lot of things, but she addressed a lot of that. She does seem to recognized the harm that she's caused and has apologized several times about what happened. You know, I would like her to finish voices. I don't know if we gave her contingency on finishing tier 2, that she would be able to finish voices before that. I mean, I don't know if that's realistic, you know? If you could even do both of those things at once, I'm not sure, you know? So, but for me, I'm not, she is doing well and is on the right path, but for me, it's gonna be, you know, a rehear or contingency today. So I guess that's where we're at, and we have to kind of figure out where we want to go from here with these dates. You know, we'd like to see her finish this tier 2. I don't know if June 2nd is too far out for us to do a contingency or not.
And she has started it. Do you know, Officer Boisford, do you know where we are in terms of how long voices is and
Voices. But I don't know when the next start time is, so it could be soon, it could be.
I mean, we really can't control it. If we did it rehear in June or July, and then, you know, with the recommendation of completing those things, and at that time they can determine what to do, but if she doesn't complete voices did tier 2, she'd still be in a good position, I think, at that point, you know.
It's my understanding that a recommendation from this panel carries weight with the
Her
discretionary parole hearing, right?
being placed at some programs, I agree.
Right.
Everybody that we've seen, those rehears have, you know, had an opportunity to complete some programs.
And she's juggled multiple programs and involvement in order to stay busy. So I think that if that could be a priority, the victimization piece is important.
Yeah, I think so. It's very serious. You know, if we weren't talking about such a serious offense, we would be a little bit different, but you can see how voices, I understand she does apologize and she does recognize the harm, but voices is a little bit more.
okay? So what is it that you'd like to do?
I mean, how long do you think, that we need to go? I don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be, for sure. We can take a guess and say June. And I don't know if we could, well, I don't think we can do a contingency on a program that she hasn't started yet, so it
Right.
would have to be a rehear.
So if we're rehearing in June, it's the third week, right? York would be the third week.
Should be clear of tier 2 at that point.
And she would potentially be well into, if not finished with voices.
That's when the next voices program starts.
Yeah, and then, you know, at that point, we can make a decision too. I don't think that she goes back in 2 weeks into voices or 3 weeks into voices. I don't think that that's gonna make, but we would have to see that hearing, you know.
So we're good with no DRs, tier 2 and voices, finished tier 2.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so in regard to Abigail Wood, 444082, I move to deny parole at this time based on inadequate institutional program participation. Is there another reason that you want to use or not? We don't have to.
If we don't have to, I mean, to me, it's linked to the nature and circumstances due to the severity.
And if it wasn't for those 2 programs, I would be okay, honestly, with her being out today, right? So that's the crux of our.
So inadequate institutional program.
I believe that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so regarding Abigail Wood, 444082, move to deny parole today based upon inadequate institutional program participation. And to rehear this case in June of 2025. And we recommend that you get no further disciplinary reports, that you finish the tier 2 program, and that you complete the voices program. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. So Ms. Ward, do you understand what we just did?
Yes.
Okay, so there's only one other thing that I'd like you to do.
Mhm.
Reach out to CCAR,
Okay,
recovery coach. Okay, I know you have family and stuff like that out there, and I know it's out there, it's rich with recovery. in terms of the two programs that you know. But if you have a coach as you go back into the community, they know where a lot of programs like Variety and Dharma and stuff like that are.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, this is heard for Abigail Wood and Inmate number 44408.
Thank you very much.
That parole board member, Mike Paul, he is nuts. How many times do I have to say it? But to think that he's on the parole board, he literally is blind to the reality of what's happening. He is making excuses for a thief. He is saying, well, I understand why she would steal a bra. Are you kidding me? This is not normal. My God. He's a parole board member. You know what he did before he was a parole board member? He taught history in middle school. Probably a great middle school history teacher, but a complete nut job when it comes to a parole board member. Dangerous. I think it's great that you're going to be a nurse. Are you kidding me? I wonder if she'd even be allowed to be a nurse. She literally stole $380,000 or something? 340 grand? From an 88-year-old person who she was in charge of? And then while she's in prison, when she knows that her parole hearing is going to be coming up just months before her parole hearing, she steals a bra? Because of her job, she is able to do that? I know in prison they don't take kindly to thieves. But imagine a parole board member justifying it. And then the reason she gives, well, I don't know, they stopped selling bras for 7 months and I really need BS. You know, this is one of the things about like Louisiana, how they have like the warden or assistant warden there in the room with them, because you could just say, hey, warden, what's wrong with the commissary? You're not selling bras? We got supply chain issues? And they want to be like, nope, it's not true. She's just a klepto. She steals. And you know, if you listen to the entire parole hearing, everything that she did, once your eyes are open, your ears are open, you know what she did. All I saw was a professional gaslighter, if not pathological liar. I'm not diagnosing it. I'm just speculating on what we saw. Everything had an excuse. Everything had a smile. Everything was like caricatured for the moment. And it was really nuts. It was bad. And Paul, this interviewer, he says it's not such a big deal that she stole. He brought it down from the 340 grand that she stole to like 230 grand. Oh, we can't compare the two. Oh, I think it's great that she's going to go to nursing. Oh, I think it's great that she took herself out of that situation. Oh, I think it's great of everything that she's doing. Why can't you take a step back and say, wait a minute, we have someone who is a manipulative liar on here, who is dangerous, who steals from the elderly. Just because this is her first felony on record doesn't mean that she hasn't done it before. It means it's the first time she's caught. Who gets caught on their first time, Mike Paul? I don't know. I'm just speculating. We don't know. Of course, her record only says she was caught once and then caught again in prison. But then to be okay with her becoming a nurse, to do two things that she claimed. One is she claims she's an addict. Two is that she's going to be working with the elderly. I mean, most likely that's what's going to happen, right? Who's going to stop it? And again, felons even become nurses. This entire hearing was so shocking, so disturbing. And I think so clear to anyone who doesn't have a PhD, to anyone who's not a parole board member, to anyone who doesn't work in DOC or government, that she is a maniacal, manipulative klepto. Just my opinion. I mean, it is in her record. She gets sent to prison for stealing, and then she gets a write-up for stealing in prison. You know, there's another thing I caught when she talks about, what was it, her grandmother? My grandmother passed away. Today she would be 104 years old. And it's like, I just like, who the hell says that? And what went through my mind was someone who says that is someone who's been using the excuse that her grandmother passed away for like the past 20 years. And then she's realized that every year she would have to progress the age. You know, she probably realized that excuse was good for like a minute. And then a year later, she'd have to say, my grandmother passed away and she'd be 86 this year. And then it turned to 87 and then 88. And then the decades tick by and now she's up to 104. I mean, like, really, that's like, it's just the classic excuse. And the whole, I think, oh, she was let go of her job without prejudice because of this. And it's like, guys, come on. It was, you know, she goes in a speech. This is so funny. She gives the speech about after she's caught stealing the bra, and she says it was such a. She goes into. She can turn the waterworks on. Amber Heard should take acting lessons from her. She can turn it on. I mean, how many times she's turned it on, right? Without ever, you know, is quite impressive. And then she says it was. So they ask us, was it like with the getting caught stealing the bra? It was a sobering moment to have the CEOs look at me like that, and I needed it. It's like, you're in prison. You're supposed to be at your low right now. What do you? It's a sobering moment for the CEOs to look at you like that. What about when you were sentenced to prison? What are you saying? I feel like I lose brain cells watching these hearings. You know, at least two of the parole board members like were disgusted by it. You know, at least that. Like, if this was Iowa, they would all be like, "Yeah, that's a great hearing. You're doing a great. That's a great hearing." And you know, we'll see her back in June. I'm recording this in March. Thank you, Holly, for calling out this hearing. We'll be back in June. Let's see if she can hold herself back for just another 2.5 months or whatever without stealing something. You think she has it in her? I'm not convinced she does. I don't think she can control herself. Written May 3rd, 2021. Woman Sharon is facing multiple charges for allegedly stealing in excess of $340,000 from an elderly woman. Police said they received a phone call in June 2020, reported larceny involving an elderly woman, one of her caretakers. Like, how did she even get in that job as a caretaker? Officers respond to the home of the caller, who told officers he had power of attorney, the elderly woman. How does she not have to pay restitution? I want to know. And what do you do with $340,000? That is a lot of money. He told officers that he contacted the victim's financial advisor, who said that, and remember, this would also only be traceable amount of money. This would be the cash that the accountant was able to see, right? Right? He told officers that he was contacted by the victim's financial advisor, who said a large amount of her money was being spent on health care related costs, with checks written to one of her caretakers. Police identify the caretaker as 37-year-old Abigail Wood. Even her name, I bet you she spoke with a British accent while she had her job. Police began to investigate Wood's spending the victim's money and found several. According to the affidavit, one statement showed that the transactions were made to Chewy, even though the victim does not own a pet. To Chewy. I wonder what her excuse was for that. Oh, she said, don't be silly. It's for her molars, you know, so she can chewy better. I just imagine she reminds me of this classic con artist because she could put on the look. She could put on the cute little thing, you know. Wood has turned herself into B Troop and was charged with larceny in the first degree, identity theft, first degree, forgery, third degree, blah, blah, blah. On 500 payment card. And yeah. So, I mean, what else is here? Let's see. 5/19/2023 is when she was sentenced, which means she had her parole hearing. Like, she stole within just like, I guess, like less than a year of being sentenced. 10-year jail sentence suspended after 45 months. I really want to know, I think you can put it right here. What do you think the judge that sentenced her would say if he knew that she stole while in prison? I think that's all you need to know. And with that, I'll let you go.
The one ticket that's here. I mean, the fact that it's a theft and a theft is, I understand that, but taking an undergarment when families can't send them in, and it's a great deal of time between the opportunity to get one from through normal channels. I'm not providing an excuse, but I just don't see $250,000 and a bra being the same thing.